Hey, this is Seth Parnell, the minister at the Portia Church of Christ, for another edition of the Midweek Bible Study. This is episode 48, I believe. And so we want to let you know that we appreciate your presence here, and we're so glad that you will be able to join us tonight. Whether you're watching this, right now, or you're watching it on the replay, we want you to know that we appreciate your presence, and we hope that you're having a good week. I know it's weather-wise, it's been great down here in Portia. It got up to around 65 today, and so it's about the time to start, getting outside. Spring will be here pretty soon, and so hope everyone is having a pleasant week so far. We always want to extend an invitation to you. If you are someone that is in the Portia area, right now we are meeting at on Sunday mornings at 10 o'clock for Bible class and 11 o'clock for worship service. And on Wednesday nights, we meet at 6 o'clock for a midweek Bible study. And so if you're in the area, we hope that you can come see us sometime, come worship with us. We would love to see you. We would love to be someone that is able to sing praises to God, study God's word alongside with you. That it's always good to meet your fellow brothers and sisters in Christ. It's always good to be able to worship with them. And so if you're in the area, we hope that you can come see us sometime. Throughout the course of this study, we also want to let you know that if you have any questions or comments about what we say or about some of the things that we go over, then please feel free to get in contact with us, and we would love to talk to you. We would love to be someone that has that conversation with you, and so that we can all grow in our study of God's Word. Tonight we have a very, very special guest with us. We have our first international guest. The midweek Bible study has gone international with our guest tonight. But tonight we have Tony Brewer. He's here with us, and he is going to join us for our study. I know that you're going to enjoy him. He is someone who used to preach in Bay, Arkansas. And now he is up in Canada. And so we appreciate you being here, Tony. I know everyone's going to enjoy the study tonight, but why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you've been doing?
Seth, I really appreciate you, brother. And let me tell you, the picture is priceless. That's probably the best picture that anybody could ever use to represent my visage. I've always said I've got a face for radio and a voice for the newspaper. Anyway, so my name's Tony Brewer. I labor with the Strathmore Boulevard Church of Christ in Toronto, Ontario, in the Great White North up here in Canada. Long story short about how I got here. We got hooked up. It was actually the congregation here knew me through a mission trip that I take I haven't taken it in the last year because of COVID, but besides COVID, we've taken it every year to New Brunswick, Canada, in the Maritimes, in Moncton, at the Riverview Church of Christ in Riverview, New Brunswick. And long story short, I'm here. I really enjoy being here in Canada. It's very, very different. It's different weather than anything I've ever been used to. We have had snow on the ground every day since maybe the day of Christmas. I've been married for 21 years this year. I'm 43 years old. I think I'm a 77 model, born in October. And, I've been preaching the gospel for, 7 or 8 years, if you count, before I went to school. So that's about all I've got.
Oh, it's great to have you here. I know my profile picture has a mask on it as well, and I always say that it improves my looks quite a bit. When you put on a mask, less is more is what I hear. But it's good to have you here. What have you been studying or preaching on lately up there at your church?
Well, so Sunday mornings, of course, we don't have a Sunday evening service. We're still in lockdown up here. So we have a Sunday morning service and we have a Wednesday night Bible class. Wednesday night Bible class, I am going through the book of John, and We're going to be in John chapter 11 or chapter 7, verse I think verse 12. It's right after the account of the woman taking an adultery, and it's been going really well so far. I really love teaching those Zoom classes, but Sunday mornings I just started teaching through the parables. My sermon last week, we looked at Matthew 13 whenever the disciples said, why are you teaching these people in parables? And Jesus explains it. So I'm really looking forward to teaching through the parables here. And other than that, I do daily podcast, and I kind of get my daily study out, my outlet for venting or for if I've got something on my mind that I want to work out, I put it in a podcast and I upload it, and that's helped me quite a bit. So I've been focusing a lot on encouragement with that lately.
Well, I know if you're someone that is interested in podcasts and in things of that sort, we have some of the links in the description here. But Tony has done a great job on developing these podcasts and putting them out. I think do you call it Cogitations? Is that the
yes?
Yeah.
It's because I'm a goofy fella. It's an arcane word that I don't hear much anymore, but it just means to think about things.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're doing well, and hope things go really well for you up there. And as we continue to push forward, we always want to let you know throughout the study that you are invited to participate, with us. If you have a question or a comment, please feel free to put it down in the comment section. We would love to hear from you, hear what you have to say. And if you have, of course, if you have any questions that we can answer, we don't have all the answers in the world, but we do our best. And so
we've got a book that does.
That's true. We do.
We might not be able to find it, but we can get somebody that can.
Yeah. And so we hope that you feel welcome and feel invited to join us tonight. We have two people who have chimed in here. We have Janet Deloche. She says that she is watching. It's good to have you here with us. And as well, we have Chadwick Lucas, who says, good to see Brother Tony is doing well.
Man, I'm so happy my buddy Chadwick Lucas is on.
It's good to have you here tonight. Tonight we're going to kind of take a topical look at a subject that has gained it was important before, but has gained a lot of importance since the following year and since what has taken place. We know that we're almost coming up on the year anniversary when the world was kind of flipped on its side with the coming of the pandemic and everything that we had to do in order to keep people safe. But one of the ways in which people have been able to connect with one another is through social media. And social media comes in a lot of forms. You may be on Facebook or on Twitter or on Instagram. It comes in several different forms. The idea of being able to connect with other people across this on these platforms. And we know there's been a lot of good and maybe some not so good that has come from that. One of the blessings of these platforms is some of the things that we're doing tonight, being able to come together, even though me and Tony are separated by thousands or a great distance, hundreds of miles. We can still get together tonight and be someone that studies the Word of God. And so we're going to take a look at that tonight, and maybe take a look at how a Christian should approach that, because as we said, as Tony said, the scriptures is something that has the answers for us. It has the blueprint for how we are to live our life. And I think if we look for it, and when we look for the answers to how to approach this idea of social media, then the Bible's going to give us some instructions. It can give us some guidance on where to go and what to do, in this case. And so, Tony, what is some of your introductory thoughts when you think about this idea of social media and the popularity that it has, and how a Christian should approach this type of thing?
So yeah, mainly a Christian's approach to social media, and before we get into this, and as we talk through it, for our listeners there, understand that I'm going to have a lot to say about this, and I'm going to have a lot of admonitions, and I'm going to have a lot of encouragements, and basically some oughts and ought nots. And just because I know all of these things does not mean that I've exemplified them. I've gotten myself in bad trouble in the past on social media. Just about everything that I say tonight, I've broke and failed at least once, maybe several times, since I've been on social media in 2015, incorporating social media in my ministry. So, there's a learning curve, and luckily, surround yourself with good people that are forgiving and everything, and you'll do well. So one of the things about the approach to social media, which admitting that I failed at the conduct on social media, is James 1:19 and 20. Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath, for the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of God. We can get caught up in pushing our beliefs and pushing things that we feel is right on social media, even in matters of scripture, and not really show forth the righteousness of God. So sometimes it's better if Christians were very slow to act. I've said it all the time. If you see a post that you don't much like on social media as a Christian, it may be best to just observe the Passover, just let it go by. And other than that, man, social media is great. It's really good. There's all kinds. I personally like taking pictures of my food and putting it on social media. I don't know why. That may be something wrong with me, but I do it.
Well, yeah, there is a lot of good sides to it. I mean, like for me, I live, in a small town, and so a lot of the people that I've come to meet and come to really count as good friends, good acquaintances. I would, without social media, I would never hear from them or never see them, and so it's the connectivity that it can have can be some very, very good things about it, and I would have to join in with you on the kind of the preface for this discussion, because there's been several times where I may have put down a comment or said something and then realized, well, maybe that wasn't the best thing to do. Maybe I should have gone a different route with that. And so nobody is going to be a perfect individual, but you can strive to be better. You can strive to make progress in your growth, as a Christian. And so that's what we seek to do, and that's what hopefully it's something that we can that we can aspire to as followers of God. But
Amen.
When we look at this, what is the importance that this has, to a Christian? We know this is something that is widely used. We know that it's something that is, it's really a part of almost, of a lot of people. It's a big part of their life. They spend a lot of, hours, interacting with things on social media. And so, as far as a Christian's faith and as far as their spiritual growth, what kind of impact or importance can social media have, on us?
So the impact that social media can have on us is it's multifaceted, really. I'll tell you one thing it's done for me. When I first started in social media, and I'll tell you something funny here. How entrenched I am in social media. I mean, I have my fingers in every aspect of it. There was a time before 2015 that I was fully convinced that if a Christian had a Facebook page, that they were violating a law of God. I thought that they were in sin, and I was having terrible internal struggles with how my brethren could wholesale endorse this wicked thing. Of course, I was mistaken. Now, listen, it's still not something that we need to be very careful with it, but just like a television, just like a radio, it can be used for very, very bad things. So I'm not going to focus on the negative things. I think everybody that would be tuning into this would understand that. So they should go without saying. We need to conduct ourselves in such a manner as to exemplify Christ. But the impact that social media had when I first got on social media is I signed up to be part of some groups that answered Bible questions. So somebody would ask a Bible question, and then people would answer them in the comments. And there would be discussions on these questions, and it made me study. I mean, I would be on here for hours. I was working with a small congregation in a very small town that when I got there, within 1 week, I knocked on every single door in the town. So there's only so much you could do outside of the office. So for hours at a time, I would be answering questions and doing research and finding new ways to articulate these truths that we had taught for so long. And I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way. It made me sharp. It sharpened me. Iron sharpens iron. And when you spend that much time doing that, it makes you quick. And it helped me, by the way, in my preaching. My preaching style is I get up in the pulpit with an understanding of what I have to say, and I open up the text and I preach, and I'll have a very few notes. And it's because of all of the study and all of the time that I put in on social media. So it can affect us in a very positive way if we use it for that way. If we use it for that, if we use that method, if we incorporate it into our ministry. And preachers are not the only ones with a ministry. When I say our ministry, I'm not talking hours as in mine and Seth's. I'm talking about hours as in every individual Christian. It's like Jesus said, if you got a set of ears, this is for you. We have ministries. Man, I don't know, Seth. I've got so much stuff that I think I need to ping pong it back to you and think for a second.
Well, I think you have some great points on that. I think especially with if you look for those opportunities for that can foster that improvement, like those groups that you talk about. If you connect with people, and that can help you think and help you study. It can give different perspectives on certain things, like certain issues. Like sometimes at least I know, at least in my case, sometimes I can get fixated on one way of seeing things, and I don't really understand it fully until I start talking with somebody else that comes at it from a different angle, and we're able to come to a better understanding of the truth of the matter. But that can be a very good side of it. I also one of the best things I think about it is that we talked about that connectivity. We talked about how it can keep people together. Sometimes people get the notion, that Christianity is for Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday night. Mm-hmm. But we know that that's not the case. We know that a Christian is a Christian, 7 days a week. It's the part of who they are. It's part of what they do. And if we use social media in the right way, we can have those Bible studies. We can have those discussions. We can be someone that is involved in these opportunities of growth and these opportunities to grow spiritually, even outside of church. It's a wonderful thing to be a part of an assembly, part of a congregation, to study together, physically, with brothers and sisters. But if we can, keep studying, if we can keep, taking in the word, all throughout the week, that can, there's nothing but good that can come from that, as long as we keep to the truth of what the gospel is. And so there's a lot of positive impacts that it can have, and of course we know that there is a negative side too. But like you said, if we look at the positives, there's a lot of good things that can come out of it.
Absolutely. I feel almost I'm torn between showing people the benefits of social media, by showing screenshots of private messages, obviously with the names redacted, but screenshots of private messages of people that have told me, I've learned more in the last 6 months in your group than I have learned in years in a lifetime of Bible study in the local congregation. Or I've rededicated myself to the Lord because I come across this content that y'all have been putting out. And when I say y'all, I've got a circle of about 5 or 6 people, that I do stuff with. And that's when I say y'all, that's what we're talking about. So I've rededicated myself to the Lord. I've repented. I went forward last Sunday, or I was baptized because of such and such. There was a woman from Taiwan, from Hong Kong. I'm sorry. There was a woman from Hong Kong that found one of our pieces of content, and she started tuning in to our live streams whenever me, Brock, and Aaron were doing the We Talk Truth podcast. And she sent me a private message and said, my son's gone to university and he's not a Christian, and he's come back doubting the existence of God. And I said, what's your address? I'll send you some stuff. She asked if I had any advice. I said, I don't have any advice. I'll send you some material. Mm-hmm. And so give me your address and I'll send it. She did. And I sent it. It cost me $60 to send it. But I mean, I would have spent $60,000 if I'd have had it, because about 4 months later, we're live streaming, and she says, hey, I just want to let you know we're heading down to the water because my son is being baptized. And I said, that's amazing. She said, yes, that yellow book that you sent me, which was Paul Sane's book, Someone Died and Left You a Fortune. She said, I went through that yellow book, the first lesson, and he took it from me and went through the entire book in one setting by himself. So that's the thing. All of these, and there's a few different stories, not quite as spectacular as that one, but that end in people being baptized. And that's only off of contacts that were made on social media, Facebook specifically.
That's a wonderful story. You love to hear those stories that have that happy ending, that have that where you can see the goodness of it, and we certainly hope that everything goes well for them over there. And it's that I think that the church can have a real presence, with not that they don't, other hand, but they can have a far outreaching presence, with the use of social media. If we're someone that embraces it, and we can, sometimes we can't be content with letting people just come to us, but sometimes we have to put our message out there. We have to be someone that is made available, where we let people know that they are welcome, that we want to give them the words of life. And it's a something, and this is a mechanism that can allow us to do that. And so I think it's something that we can use for a lot of good.
Absolutely.
But we know that there is as you said, there's some good and bad sides here to the use of social media. But what are some qualities and what are some characteristics maybe that we can adopt, that we can take into ourselves, that can improve our interactions on social media, that can help us to approach this thing in a Christian manner, in a way in which we are glorifying God in what we do? What are some good things that can help us out with those?
Well, Seth, that's a wonderful question. And I think it was 2 years ago I spoke at Polishing the Pulpit, and I spoke about this very topic. Listen, the golden text for Christians on social media is 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, 9 through 12. Let me read it. But as touching brotherly love, you need not that I write unto you, for you yourselves are taught of God to love one another. So they do it well. He goes on, and indeed you do it toward all the brethren which are at Macedonia. But we beseech you, brethren, that you increase more and more. And so the second thing, and that you study or give diligence to be quiet, and to do your own business, and to work with your own hands if we have commanded you. So there's 4 things: increase in brotherly love, study to be quiet or peaceable, do your own business, not somebody else's. So don't be a busybody in other men's matters, and work with your own hands. So do your own work, fulfill your responsibilities. And then verse 12 has the purpose for that we may walk honestly toward them that are without, that ye may have lack of nothing. So how does that apply to social media? I think sometimes we have a fundamental misunderstanding of social media. We think it's not the real world. So, for instance, let's say that Seth Parnell and Seth, do you have elders there at Portia?
Yes, we do. We got
Okay,
three elders. We got Royce Lusk, Robert Davis, and Tom Dunlap.
awesome. So let's say that your eldership comes to Seth and says, or comes to you and says, Seth, we want you to make a Portia Church of Christ Facebook group for our members and for other people that they invite in. And you make that group, and then you're a moderator or an admin in that group. Well, the same congregational autonomous authority applies to that group as if it as does apply to when y'all are assembled Sunday morning. So if I come in there, anything that I wouldn't do in your Bible class on Sunday morning, I shouldn't do in your Facebook group, because that's your ministry. So I need to advance brotherly love. I need to give diligence to be peaceable. I need to work with my own hands. I need to do my own business so that I can walk honestly toward those that are without. So, for instance, if you're teaching something in a Bible class that I disagree with, I'm not going to disrupt the Bible class and usurp the authority that you have in that Bible class, just like I wouldn't go to your Facebook group on a group that you manage and try to usurp that authority there. If I disagree with it, we're either going to have a conversation in private, or I'm just going to observe the Passover. I'm not going to engage. And that's, again, the question is, what are some of the qualities or characteristics one can adopt to improve these interactions? Well, I would list those four that are outlined in 1 Thessalonians there. Brotherly love, give diligence to be quiet or peaceable, minding our own business in a certain situation, and working with our own hands. Let me tell you, all the problems I've ever had on social media, it is because people have forgotten these principles. They want to come up in, like, for instance, we have the Added to the Church of Christ Acts 247 Facebook page. And in the beginning, in the old days, back before Facebook's algorithm changed, we would have people come in all the time, and when we were reaching literally millions of people, and we would have people come in and try to take over. And I'm like, we can't let you do this. We can't let you come in and use our platform as a platform to teach whatever it is you want to teach. Sometimes they were teaching false doctrine. Sometimes they were just teaching some stuff that were academic pursuits, but stuff with which we disagreed. And it was causing problems. So I don't want to paint too bleak of a picture, but let me end on a high note. If I come into the Portia Church of Christ Facebook group that Seth manages by the authority of the eldership, if I disagree with something Seth posts, you will never, ever know it. Seth may know it, but nobody else in the group will ever know it, because that's not my house. The only thing that I'm going to do is conduct myself in such a way that gives that preeminence to Seth and his group, and let him run his ministry and conduct his ministry as he sees fit under the authority of his eldership. Anyway, I don't know if that made the water muddy or not, brother.
I think you made some great points. I mean, I think that is I think that's one of the root of one of the biggest problems. When we talk about, how some people don't see it as real life. Sometimes they're emboldened because they don't face immediate consequences like you would if you said something, to someone's face. But we have to remember, like we are if you are a member of the church, if you are a Christian, then you are someone that represents, Christ. You represent the church with what you do, and that applies to what you say to people when you face to face, and it also applies to what you type on a keyboard and what you say to people, on online. And so we have to approach things, I think, with with a sense of humility at times. We have to be someone that, like you said, if there's a no shame in just walking away, to get involved maybe in something that we shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sometimes we feel like a sense of, sometimes it may come from a sense of pride that we want to kind of get back at someone. But I think humility, if someone is humble in how they approach your social media, I think it will save them a lot of headaches in
Yes.
avoiding things that they should stay away from. And of course, we know that the Bible is very clear about how we treat other people. There's so much in the Bible that has to do with how we treat other people and how we care for them. And it tells us to treat people with kindness, with compassion. We know that one of the central pillars of the Bible is love. You go to Matthew chapter 22, and what is the second greatest commandment? To love your neighbor, as yourself.
That's it.
And do people online, do they count you as my neighbor? Well, I think you could say that they do. The people that that you interact with need to be approached in a loving way. And if a Christian can adopt that mindset, if we can be someone that has love, intertwined in everything that we do, when we want to care not only just for our own self but for the person that we're talking to, I think that can make our interactions a whole lot better. And there are times where you have to stand up, and you have to stand up for what the Bible says. And sometimes you have to push back on some things when people might come at you. But love should always be something that is on our mind when we're trading with people. And remember that we're talking to an actual person. There's an actual person on the other end, and not just a picture like we might see.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to care for them in that way.
Yes. Something come to mind when you were talking there. John, the Apostle John, in 3 John, writes about Diotrephes, who loved the preeminence. That implies that somebody is going to have the preeminence, and the test of character would be, do you love it? And I go back to the idea, if I come up into your house, I am going to defer to you because you have the preeminence, and that way I'm going to that's an attribute of God. Jesus came to this earth, and in order to come to this earth, he had to humble himself and take on the form of a servant. It's it doesn't hurt to be a little bit humble and to defer. I'm part of a lot of Facebook groups and look at a lot of content from a lot of different places, and I don't know. I don't feel the need to correct everything that I see or criticize everything that I see, because these folks need to be able to do their business in the way that they see fit, within the boundaries of the gospel, of course. And if it's my brother, then I'm going to send him a private message if he's not doing that.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it as well. If you have a problem with someone, then send them a private message. You don't have to put it out there for all the world to see, but you can, go to that and have that private conversation, with them. It reminds me of a couple of Christians I read about named Aquila and Priscilla. When they encountered Apollos. Apollos was he was a very educated man. He was a very eloquent man. The Bible praises his ability to preach and to speak the gospel, but yet he needed to understand some things a little bit better. But instead of standing up and maybe coming down on him hard, Aquila and Priscilla said they took him aside and they explained to him more perfectly the word of God. And so if it is something that you feel you need to talk to someone, then it's all right to send them a private message and discuss that with them. You don't have to be someone that puts it out there for the world to see.
Yeah. And best case scenario is a face-to-face visit, but if you can't do that, second best is a telephone call or a video call. But if you can't do that, private message, and that's sound advice right there.
Because sometimes a lot can get lost in far as text goes, as far as a message that is typed out. Sometimes as far as tone and body language, it can be a lot easier to misinterpret something that someone says when it's typed out. But like I said, if that's an option, if you can meet with them, then whether it's virtually or in person, that's always a better option. If you're someone that is generally interested in coming to a resolution and in finding the truth of the matter.
Absolutely.
We've had a number of people chime in again. We've had Donna Harris. She is here listening. It's good to have her here tonight. We have Nancy Medlock. She is here with us. She says that she is watching, and alongside Connie Barden.
Hey, Connie.
Good to have you here. And Tommy Evans Tillman, she says here, better late than never, I hope. Yeah, it's good to have you. Whenever you have the opportunity to be here, we love having you here. Wayne Vaughn, he says amen to that. He says, let it be so.
That's it. It's something you said.
And Chadwick Lucas, he puts the scripture. He says, 1 John 4:8, he that liveth not knoweth not God, for God is love.
Yeah, I think he typoed. His spell check got him. His spell check doesn't know the King James Version. He that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love.
Yeah, I imagine the King James and the spell checkers don't get along with each other.
No. Now I'm not virtue signaling. Well, of course I am. My iMessage on my phone, it has learned the King James.
You've taught it, huh?
That's it. It'll put an ETH on a verb just fine.
But that is a good verse. You can't separate love out of the picture. And one thing about love is that you have to be consistent, and you have to be consistent in who you give love to. Jesus talked about loving your enemies, loving those that oppose you. It doesn't take much of a person to love your friends or to love those who are pleasant to you, but it's a test of character to love those who are on the other side, to love those who oppose you, and that's a big part of it.
That's it.
I also Brad Partee. He says we have to be careful with posting on social media. Written words are heard in the way the reader reads them, and the tone can be different from what the writer intended.
That's it.
And I think that goes along with with what we said. Sometimes it can be easy to misinterpret what someone says when you just read it, and that's why those face-to-face conversations are so good, because it happens a lot, I think, but it would be a real shame to have an argument or to have a conflict based solely on a misunderstanding of what the person means, but
or on an assumed tone.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can say, Seth, you're a big dog, or Seth, you're a big dog.
Yeah.
That communicates two different things. It's the same words, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes you could maybe sometimes like he says, you can read, sometimes you can read things into it. Like you may think someone is being maybe defensive or angry when they're not. And so it's it's important that we, I guess you say, don't jump to conclusions maybe when we read something that someone says. I think it's also good to give people a benefit of a doubt, that if before you jump to something to where you think
Yes.
that they're coming after you, or you think that they mean something that is wrong, maybe you ask them to clarify, ask them to to explain in a non-aggressive way. I think
Yeah.
that can go, a little clarity can go a long ways in discussions on social media.
Seth, I was discussing mechanical instruments of music with a man one time in the We Talk Truth group. It's been a couple of years ago, and I could tell like this man was getting up in his emotions. He played in a band, and my next comment, instead of answering his rebuttal, and my next comment, I said, "Listen, I can tell that you are very passionate, and you're passionate about Jesus, and I am so passionate about the truth that I forget that the people that I discuss things with are people, and I'm not just dissecting ideas. And I know that I can come across as very uncaring, and I think that I've done that now. I don't want you to think I'm uncaring, and I'm aware of this shortcoming, and I just want you to know that I can't remember exactly what I said, but Seth, it totally diffused the situation. And he's been one of my biggest proponents and supporters of this work and sharing my work. And he even became a patron not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
you know um just I mean, he's in my corner, man, and all I did was just take about that much to say, you know what, I feel like I'm treating you as if I don't care about you as a person. That is not true. I do care about you as a person. And that was it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't. It's very easy to forget the personal nature, of these things, and sometimes people can take things, to heart, and so it's always sometimes good to just take a step back, take a breather, and like you said, just remind people that you don't mean things personally. You're not here for personal insults, but you're just talking about what and you're talking about what you understand to be the truth, and
Mm-hmm.
and so we always need to be careful about that, and try to be someone that is clear in what we say. But we know that there's a lot of good things, and there can be also a lot of negative things, as well. There can be some there can be some dangers, to social media as far as a Christian is concerned, as far as whether they operate and the things that they do. And so, in your experience or in your mind, what are some things that are dangers to a Christian when they use social media, or when they get lost in that world, or when they explore that world? What are some negative things that can occur to a Christian as far as their spiritual life goes?
Absolutely. So three things come to mind. Number one, you can bring shame and reproach upon the Lord's body. I'll never forget the time that I was in a checkout line in a grocery store, and there somebody was wearing the such and such Church of Christ T-shirt, and they were buying enough alcohol to supply a bar for a busy evening. Uh, you just got to be careful what you do. And social media is everywhere. Everybody sees it. You cannot hide anything from it. I think it's so funny. I see these posts going around every once in a while about privacy on Facebook. Listen, if you're on Facebook, you don't have any privacy. The Russians know. Okay? All right. Now, so you can bring shame on the church. We just got to be careful. And again, it's not a situation of the pot calling the kettle black. I have done the very thing that I'm telling y'all you be careful of doing, okay? Um, but I would hope that because I'm human and you're human, maybe we've all done it. And if you hadn't done it yet, God bless you. But anyway, so be careful. We can bring shame upon the church. We can conduct ourselves in a manner. We can share something that is unsavory, unbecoming of a Christian. We can act unbecoming of a Christian. But another thing that comes to mind is we'll get so wrapped up in the world, we'll forget about Jesus. 2 Timothy 2, verse 4, Paul talks about a good soldier does not entangle himself in the affairs of this world. And listen, I love politics. I love my country, the United States of America. When I bleed, not only is it red, but it's white and blue too. You know what? It doesn't hold a candle to Jesus. It doesn't hold a candle to the Lord's church. So I've got to watch it. I've got to take a step back sometimes and just when some of that stuff comes across on my timeline that's so political, I just have to click that top right button and say, I want to see less of this. Did you know you could do that, by the way? You can curate your timeline so you can see and control what you see. So we can get wrapped up in the world. And then number 3, and this is something that's so it's not talked about anymore, but you could be unfaithful to your spouse. There's a lot of affairs started because of social media. And it's, you might think, well, Tony, you kind of overreacting there. I would be very surprised. I would be very interested, rather, to see the statistic for divorces that are caused because someone had an affair, and that affair was because of a relationship started on social media. There's no barrier on social media to interaction, and it doesn't have quite the red flags that go off in your mind. I have a scruple. I don't send private messages to members of the opposite sex. Now, if members of the opposite sex send me a private message asking me a Bible question, I will respond. But I'd never, ever, ever send them a private message to start a conversation. And therefore, I will never send a member of the opposite sex a private message to start a conversation on Facebook. So anyway, it bothers me thinking about this. But what'll happen is two people will start talking with one another, and there won't be these red flags. Now, if I met some girl at Starbucks and sat down and was meeting with her every day and talking over coffee, well, that throws off all kinds of red flags. We've been accustomed and to that, but chatting in a private message chat on Facebook doesn't set off any red flags. So then you build this and you build this connection, and then next thing you know, you are meeting at the Starbucks or the Tim Hortons or wherever. Anyway, I just don't think that's talked about much anymore, and I think it should be. We need to guard the fidelity to our spouse. And so that's the three things. We could bring reproach upon the church through our conduct. We could get wrapped up in the affairs of this world, and we could become unfaithful to our spouses.
Yeah, I think we talked about earlier about the how we are always a representative of the church, of our congregation, of the Lord's body, of really of Christianity itself. A lot of people, we always talk about this idea of being the church, being the Lord's body, his hands and feet. And that's something that goes beyond it goes to that all of our online interactions as well, because like I said, everyone sees these things. Every once in a while, you'll see like an actor or something, you'll put up something controversial, and they'll take it down like minutes after. But then there'll be like 1,000 people who have already screenshotted it. It's when you put it out there, it's out there. And there's a lot of people who might never darken the door of a church building are going to see, what you post, and they're going to see, the things, that you say. And if you're someone, like you said, if you're bringing your reproach on the church, if you're someone that is acting in a way that's inconsistent, with what Christianity is about, that's going to cause some confusion. That's going to cause some adverse reactions to the gospel and to the faith. And so we have to be careful about that. We have to be like I said, we need to be careful with with who we talk to and where those things can lead. But I also believe that we have to be careful about retaliation. Sometimes it's one of those temptations that we have is to if somebody like I said, if someone slaps us on the cheek, we're going to slap them back. We're going to retaliate in a manner that seems fair to us. But we're familiar with a lot of the scriptures that talk about how retaliation is not something that fits into the realm of Christianity. And we don't have to be the one that ends on top, in a discussion or in a conflict. Sometimes it's good to save it for the next day, or be someone that doesn't respond at all. Retaliation is something that rarely called to produce as Christians. And so we need to be careful when we're about I think it's about our motivation. We need to understand our motivation before we post something. Is it something to retaliate? Is it something to defend our own ego or our own pride, or something that is not wholesome like that? Is it something that goes for the purpose of genuinely, like you said, either de-escalating a situation or to further the goal of this interaction? What's our motivation for what we do and for what we put on? I think if we ask ourselves that self-examination, I think that can go a long ways in curating the content that we put out in a more consistent manner.
Absolutely. I don't know. I ain't much to add there, Seth. That's pretty good stuff.
Well, Connie Barton, she says that we have to be sure we read someone's post completely before reposting. It can come back to, but you found that out the hard way.
Yes.
Yeah, especially when you're sharing something, it's easy to scan something and you hit that share button and it'll go on with your day. But sometimes we need to be careful about what we're sharing, what we attach our name to, because like Connie mentions here, that can have some negative consequences as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, when you share it, whether you like it or not, you've put your stamp of approval on it, and just make sure.
Yeah.
Make sure you're willing to do that.
Absolutely. And Wayne Vaughn, he says, sad thing is most people don't learn from their mistakes.
Whew. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be, I think first you have to be humble enough to admit you made a mistake, and then you have to have the drive to learn from that and find out what can I do better. How can if I run into the same situation again, how can I handle it better? We have to. I think it's good to do that, but like I said, sometimes people will not learn from their mistakes.
Absolutely.
Well, we are running a little bit long on time here, and so we are going to we're going to kind of skip to the end here and to this. I think to the last question that I have there for you, but we understand the impact that this has had on the world, as far as how it connects us and how it puts us together, and especially like you talked about beforehand, how you teach a Zoom class, because that's how you're able to connect with people, utilizing technology and utilizing ways that we do that. But And when we look at the church, as a whole, how has social media and really, the connectivity that the internet, brings, how has that affected, the church, and how has that maybe either in a good way or a bad way, how has that been something that has affected, the congregations today?
So yeah, that's a really good question. So there's good ways it's affected it, and quite frankly, there's bad ways it's affected it. The good ways, just very, very simply, there's more content out there now. I remember in 2015, I was in this space with another buddy of mine, and we were kind of, we would have people talking to us, and sometimes some of our contemporaries would engage us, and if they were talking back and forth about something, they would make comments like, "Well, this has been a good conversation, but I've got important stuff to do today." Well, okay, so what you're saying then is what we're doing as far as our social media ministry is not important whatsoever, and I see where you're at there. But so it's shown a real need for it, and the good thing about it is, well, I don't think, but for the advent of COVID, would you have been 48 episodes into a video Bible study like this? That and so many congregations and so many individuals who are much better than I will ever be are now in this space putting out content, and my brethren see the need for it. And I don't think that's ever a bad thing to have more Jesus out there. As far as the bad things, I think there's less connection now. I think if we're not very, very careful, we will misunderstand the nature of exactly what's going on with this pandemic and exactly how to articulate what is happening, and we won't adequately express the reality of what is happening, and we will give people the idea that online is the same as being assembled together with the saints. That's my biggest fear. That's my biggest fear is we are in people's minds diluting them or diluting the need in their minds of the episynagoge, the assembling of yourselves together. And that's a real tragedy.
Do you think that that going forward, do you think there's going to be a group of people that become more decentralized, like with a local congregation? Do you think that, with the like you said, with the availability of content, on social media and online, there's always been a group, of the church who may go to one congregation, one day and maybe go to another, the next day. But do you think that that's going to increase, with like I said, with the amount of content that's on that is available now?
I think so. So think about this. So you've got a member at the Porch of Church of Christ that you haven't seen in 2 weeks. So you call him up and you say, "Hey, brother, we've been missing you. Just checking on you." And, "Oh yeah, well, I've been attending virtual worship at the Bay Church of Christ." Well, I don't want to. It's not that I'm cynical, which I've admitted to being cynical. There's no way to hold that person accountable because the congregation he claims to be visiting has no clue whether or not he was there, unless it's a Zoom meeting. But I mean, most people, their Sunday morning class, their Sunday morning is streamed to Facebook and YouTube. So like we only know how many people were there. We don't know who was there. So I can see because there's folks that were doing it before. There was folks that were doing it before all this, right? They would try to be on the fringe and stay on the edge and keep one foot in the world and this, that, and the other. There's always going to be folks like this. It's almost like when you park your car in the city, be sure and lock your doors. Well, why? Because you don't want honest people to steal your stuff. A thief is going to steal your stuff regardless of whether or not it's locked. But a lock will keep an honest person out. Well, kind of the same way with this. There's a group of people in the Lord's church, I'm sure, that are going to be there Monday, Wednesday, Sunday, Wednesday, and Sunday morning, and all that good stuff. But given that it's so easy, it may be like that woman that lost her coin.
Mhm.
She was a little neglectful, and the coin just kind of fell through the cracks. And I'm scared that I'm just scared. I'm scared for this. It keeps me up at night.
And I think there's, like I said, there's not really an adequate substitute, for that fellowship that we can have, with brothers and sisters. I always encourage people, be invested, in a local congregation. Be someone that fellowships with them. You be someone that invests you in that manner. It can be in Toronto, it can be in Portia, it can be in Bay or Black Rock, but wherever you find a congregation and invest yourself, in that, be someone that is part of the church, and be someone that has that, and put your time into that, and not someone who like you said, it kind of goes, maybe Lone Ranger, with as far as, with the Christian, but find a congregation, one that has that leadership, and be someone that is a part of it. Find a congregation.
Sorry about that.
Connie Barton, she says, first time I caught you guys. We'll be watching you again. We appreciate your kind words, and we hope that you will join us again. Tony, we've got to about an hour. Start to wind this down, but do you have any closing thoughts when you think about this idea of a Christian's approach, to social media, and if you kind of wrap up or summarize, what are some of your closing thoughts about what we've discussed today?
Just don't do anything on social media that you wouldn't do during the worship service. That's just a really good rule of thumb. And no, you're right. I wouldn't share pictures of my food during worship service, and I share pictures of my food all over social media. But it's just a general rule of thumb. Man, I think about that very simple campaign. I can't remember if it was the late 80s, early 90s, or whatever, but it was WWJD. What would Jesus do? Man, read that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and read about Jesus, and from your knowledge of what Jesus did, extrapolate what he would do in any given situation, and just act like that. Again, I've fallen short on many occasions, so it's not like I'm telling you anything that I don't need to work on. But that would be the advice, and I suppose that would be the advice from the book, not from Tony. But that would be, I suppose, that would be my closing remarks. Just really study what Paul is telling those folks in 1 Thessalonians 4:9-12, and adopt those 4 things and apply them to social media. Just think about what would Jesus do, and then sometimes think about, is this comment really important? And then that's about all I've got, Seth. Bubba, I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Well, we so appreciate you being here. And I think Wayne he agrees with you. He says, "Think before you act."
That's it.
Well, we got to do that. We got to be someone that resists the urge to impulsively, respond to things and post things, and we need to think about the consequences, that will hold. Well, Tony, we know that you are hard at work, with podcasts, and with, like I said, with Facebook groups. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you about the subject today is because you're so involved in that space, and you have a lot of experience, with it. And so, if somebody wants to hear more of your content, if they want to hear more of what you put out, where can they go to find it?
So you can go to Facebook, and in your search bar, type in "We Talk Truth" and ask to be a member of the group. Whenever you're a member of the group, look at the rules and then join in. And we've got a good group there. It's heavily moderated. So I don't care if you come in asking a question about whether or not Adam has a belly button. That's Adam, the first Adam. We'll discuss it with you, because everybody is in different stages along their journey of faith, and not every question is immediately obvious to everybody. So it's a real good group of folks. And if you want to hear my podcast, you can go to Podbean, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, or Spotify, and just type in Cogitations, and like, subscribe, share, 5-star rating, thumbs up, whatever you have to do there. And then LaBeth and I, we do a podcast called The Mindful Soul, and we have been looking at the personality profiles of different Old Testament characters. And right now, that's on Podbean and Apple Podcast. Just go The Mindful Soul, and you can also find it at beamindfulsoul.com. That's beamindfulsoul.com. That website may be under construction, though. You may have to give that a few days. But if you'll go to Podbean and search The Mindful Soul, or if you'll go to Apple Podcast and search The Mindful Soul, you'll find it.
Well, we encourage people to check you out. I know you put a lot of good stuff out, and you've how long have you been putting out the podcast?
2 or 3 years now. I did one called the Life and Godliness Podcast, and that was before I knew anything about sound or anything. I went record, and I talked into the rear end of my phone, and before I started doing something else, it was getting like 1,000 downloads a week. So I guess it's been 3 years now since I've done Cogitations. We're on season 3. Yeah. So it's been 3 years, and we've got 300 and some odd episodes, and we have a little over 20,000 downloads. It's not a huge podcast, but it's a bunch of them.
Well, I know I've been following you for a while, and so we wish that everything goes well for you. We hope that you hit the ground running up there in Toronto, and we hope that you can do a lot of good work.
Hey, we've had 4 baptisms since I've been here, and in spite of COVID, I've had a Bible study. I've had 2 Bible studies using Bobby Bates' Back to the Bible, and both of those studies resulted in someone being baptized in the Lord's church.
Well, that is excellent to hear. And we hope you have more of those.
I guarantee it. Hey, I like that. Hey, these folks are scared to death of COVID. I like, well, I'll send you a Zoom link.
Yeah, you can meet them where they're at.
That's it, and they like it.
Yeah. Tommy, he says thanks for the good discussion. It was needed.
Thank you, Tommy.
We appreciate you being here. And Connie asks where I'm at. I'm in Portia, Arkansas. I am at the Portia Church of Christ. It's about 5 miles from Walnut Ridge, about 25 miles from Jonesboro, if you're around that area. And so we thank you for joining us and for being with us.
Connie, I can't believe you've never seen Seth before. Connie is one of my greatest encouragers and supporters, and not just mine, but Stefan and John Sales, and just anything we do, buddy. She's right there at it, and loves to participate and everything like that. We love Connie.
Well, that's a good deal, and we hope that maybe someday we'll bring you back, and we'll have another discussion.
Hey man, I'm up for it.
All right. Well, we always want to let you know that we'll be back here next Thursday for another episode of the Midweek Bible Study, and so we hope that this has been beneficial to you, and we hope that this has been something that's encouraged you and maybe gave you some good things to study about the Word of God. And we want to echo what we said earlier. If you have any questions or comments about what we've said tonight, please feel free to get in contact with us. We would love to talk with you. But until then, we hope that you will go out, and we hope that you can be somebody that is the light of the world, that you can represent Christ in a good way, and that you can be someone that encourages and lifts up the people that are around you. And we'll see you